Hello, and welcome to the Charterstone Times, an award-winning investigative journalism and local gossip podcast, bringing you the latest news from the Santa Royale Charterstone Apartment Complex. Here, we aim to be your in-depth source for all going-ons in the Merryworth universe. Hello everybody, and welcome once again to the Charterstone Times. Today is Sunday, March 31st, 2024. It is the second day of the weekend, looking into the week up ahead as we wind down the start of the newest arc to hit the Santa Royale area and Charterstone Apartment Complex. Throughout this week, we've been learning that Dawn is going to go live with her mother in Connecticut for a year. Wilbur has been inquiring what leads her to make this decision, and we're told that she both saw an ex with a new girlfriend as well as wants quality time with her mother. What could be going on? Today, let's find out. We're reminded of a popular quote from Greg Norman. I owe a lot to my parents, especially my mother and my father. Wow, what a deep quote. What could this mean? Someone inside of the airport, which we find ourselves at, with a long eave supported by a mere 5 outstretched beams, a long glass window, as well as a singular airplane taking off from above, says, I'm glad the university is allowing me to take time off. In the next panel, we find out this is Dawn. She says, because I need to do this. Wilbur, carrying Dawn's pink duffel bag, and Dawn carrying a small roller suitcase, are moving themselves through a very, very busy airport. There are seemingly hundreds of people inside the airport rushing to and fro to find their gates. Not a single TSA agent or security line is present. Dawn tells Wilbur, I'll see how it goes. Wilbur reminds her, if it doesn't work out, just come home. Dawn says, don't worry, I'll be back in a year. This is occurring on May 31st, 2024. Set your calendar reminders for May 31st, 2025 to see if Dawn lives up to her word. Wilbur says, if the two of you don't bond the way you plan, come home sooner. I'll always be here for you, Dawn, and I won't touch your room. Dawn looks at him and says, I know, Dad. Wilbur hugs her as he says, I'll miss you. Dawn says, please don't, at least not too much. It'll be okay. Is this Dawn's way of pranking her father into thinking she too was dead and showing up weeks later as he is racked with guilt and grief at losing the only source of love and comfort in her life? Let's tune in later to find out. And now, to recap this very special week, we would like to bring you a special report from the first time that Wilbur showed up at the Charterstone Apartment Complex 31 years ago, almost to the day. This news is brought to you by independent journalist and reporter Josh Frolinger of joshreads.com, chronicling the origins of Wilbur Weston. The first appearance and mention of him was on April 1st, 1993, when Toby told Merryworth that a new resident had eliminated one kitchen and made the other one smaller. Apparently, the new resident, Wilbur Weston, does not need 2 kitchens in his own single apartment. How strange. Toby pondered that perhaps Wilbur Weston is a rich, handsome bachelor. She is wrong. Wilbur is neither rich nor handsome, but he is very much a bachelor Later on, Wilbur showed up on April 16th of 1993. Mary introduced herself to him and says, "I'm Mrs. Worth, sir. Are you by any chance Mr.?" And Wilbur let her know, "Wilbur Weston. I phoned this afternoon." He's wearing a detective's noir outfit with a fedora. Ian Cameron whispers to his wife, Toby, "So much for your handsome swinging bachelor theory, my dear." Yes, Wilbur Weston will not be engaging in a hot wife lifestyle with Toby Cameron. Later on, Toby and Wilbur dined in May, where Ian, her husband, asked what sort of advice does Wilbur's column dispense after finding out he's a newspaper writer. Wilbur mentioned he writes Ask Wendy, and Ian almost choked to death on his food, asking if he authors drivel for frustrated females. It was a different time. Ian Cameron asks, why would a red-blooded man write a column called Ask Wendy? And Wilbur mentions that the answer is simple: money. He mentions he won his job in a contest. This job later changes somewhat, as he also writes articles in the news about times when he should have died but didn't, and other articles where he also should have died but didn't. In the next pane, Toby asked Wilbur if he was once a sports reporter, and Wilbur confirms he was starving but was very happy. Later on, we find out that Wilbur is recently divorced and has lost the battle of matrimony with his ex-wife. His ex-wife is named Gail. This is Don's mother. And we also found out that Gail and his daughter Dawn, who was 15 at the time, voted to kick him out of the house and move somewhere else. Wow. Riveting origins for a very popular resident of the Charterstone apartment complex. That's all for today's edition of the Charterstone Times. Thank you again, as always, for listening, and I hope you will tune in tomorrow to see what else happens in the exciting world of the Charterstone Apartments and Mary Worth.